Hello and welcome back to Cinematic Universe, everyone. My name is Ernesto Martinez. Joining me, as always, is David Powers King, the co-author of Woven, and what was the name of your zombie book?
The Undead Road.
The Undead Road. And he's joining me for another feature film review, but we're doing something a little different here. We're going to be talking about a live-action movie this time. Not to say that we're only going to reserve David for animation movies, but this one in particular is a special kind of variety, a special kind of movie, and a special kind of review because originally I wasn't going to see it. I wasn't going to acknowledge it. I was just going to let it pass me by. And it took some convincing to get me to watch it. And the movie I'm talking about is the 2016, I want to say either remake or reboot or whatever you want to call it, Ghostbusters, starring Melissa McCarthy, Leslie Jones, Kristen Wiig, and what was her name? The other one?
Let's see, that was,
Kate McKinnon?
yes.
Kate McKinnon, who, along with Leslie Jones, you might know from Saturday Night Live, and Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig, who you might know from Paul Feig's comedy movies, Bridesmaids, The Heat, and the recent Spy movie. And, of course, directed by Paul Feig. So, before I get into my thought process on it, after sitting through it, David, being the one who talked me into it, because you were the one
My
who...
fault.
Yeah, you were the one who was going to survey the area before throwing the recommendation my way. Because originally, what you had told me was, "Hey, if I liked it, I'll recommend it to you. If I don't, I won't even make a beep." So, what did you think of this reboot?
So, and part of the reason why I was more or less just curious about how this was going to play out. Of course, that we know that there's a lot of, I guess you can say, controversy or misgivings about this film, and, as a huge Ghostbuster fan, I'm just going to throw this out there. The original film came out in 1984. And Ghostbusters, the original one, is my very, very first movie memory. 4 years old, the library scene scared the pants out of me when I was 4 years old. Okay? And I absolutely loved it. And I wanted more. And of course, that was right when they were doing like the animated series, The Real Ghostbusters. I was their target audience when that show was on the air. So I was glued to it on Saturday mornings. I thoroughly enjoyed Ghostbusters 2, and I just couldn't wait for the third one to come out. And I waited. And I waited. And I waited some more. And decades later, there was still nothing going on. And sadly, the cast is a lot older now, and we lost Egon. We lost Harold Ramis. And, just wasn't really sure what was going to happen to Ghostbusters anymore. Then the news of this came out, and it was going to be kind of a redo, an all-female team. And when I first heard that it was going to be an all-female team, I was like, well, okay. Well, I'm kind of curious to see how that would pan out. Not that it necessarily means anything or not. I just know that there was like this big backlash on the internet that was kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. And I was like, well, okay, I'll see how the general consensus thinks about this film before going and checking it out. When I saw that the general consensus was fairly favorable, I was like, okay, and I'll give it a shot. And I gotta tell you, I wasn't disappointed. But I also was not thrilled, if that makes sense. So what we've got basically is a Ghostbusters redo. It is more or less the same plot of how the original Ghostbusters got together, with some things a little bit different to kind of shake things up. No, we're not battling a ghost from another dimension called Zool or anything like that. But we did have some scientists who got together over the course of the film, and then also a fourth member who was working in a New York subway. Not a scientist, but had a lot of resources that could help this new team start up. And to me, I was a little bit concerned that maybe it was just going to... The fact that this was going to be an all-female cast was going to be thrown at us. But given the film itself, as you're watching it, things fell into place pretty naturally for me. So I didn't have any problems one way or the other with the original or with this one about how the team got together. And then they're battling ghosts, and they're trying to work out some stuff and work around the red tape with the government about how to go about running their business. Getting a receptionist who's played by, what was his name again? I should know his name off the back of my head.
Kevin.
Chris Helmsworth.
His name is Kevin.
Chris Helmsworth. Oh yeah, his character is Kevin. The actor is
Chris Hemsworth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thor.
Yes. Who, I might add, was actually really funny in this. I really liked the way that he did his character, and I thought it really kind of helped with some of the awkward moments. And it ended on quite a big bang. Like, for me, I felt that as the story progressed and when the movie finally came to its conclusion, I was like, okay, I can do this. I'm on board with another adventure if they're going to do it. But again, this isn't to say, like, I'm not going to call this a masterpiece, but it absolutely was not a train wreck either.
Where do I start here? You know that first picture that came out of this movie? That it was a set picture, and Leslie Jones, Kate McKinnon, Melissa McCarthy, and Kristen Wiig, they were just standing around like on an assembly line.
Yes.
And Leslie looks like she's good, like she's talking midway, and Melissa McCarthy's looking up like she's not interested in what she's saying or something like that. It's pretty much like the least, how do I say it? The least flattering behind-the-scenes picture is what I'm trying to get at.
And I won't disagree with you on that. When I first saw it, I was kind of like,
Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make with me bringing that up is that, how long was this movie?
It was almost 2 hours.
So for almost 2 hours, I was the literal embodiment of that picture.
Oh.
In the movie theater. I wasn't mad, wasn't even happy. There were a few chuckles here and there, I will admit, and that's in part by Leslie Jones. She had a few good moments, and she deserves those good moments because, god damn it, I needed to laugh at something. But that was my literal embodiment right there for almost 2 hours, just sitting down in the middle of the theater while everybody is laughing their ass off, and I had this straight, monotoned, what the hell am I watching? Why am I not laughing? Why am I not reacting? Face the entire time. It was also the embodiment of meh, and all wrapped up in my face. And here's the thing. I'm not going to pretend that, full disclosure here, I'm not a fan of Melissa McCarthy. The reason being that the first time I saw her was in Paul Feig's Bridesmaids, which pretty much made a name of her and him and stuff like that in that movie. I liked her in that movie because while the movie wasn't a masterpiece either, her chemistry with Kristen Wiig was the highlight of that movie. And I laughed a lot because of those two. And the reason why I'm not a fan of Melissa McCarthy after saying all that is because her exposure after that was the same shtick over and over and over again. She took on these unlikable, unfunny characters, and Also, comedy and it's very subjective. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. It just doesn't hit with me when it comes to her brand of humor when she's working with Paul Feig. Or Feig, however you pronounce his last name. I wish directors picked some easier names to pronounce. And when they announced that they were going to make an all-female cast, immediately I said, well, shit, they're going to cast Melissa McCarthy and they're probably going to cast Rebel Wilson in the role. Well, score for me, I made 1 out of 1.
There you go.
And I was already turning myself off to the idea because of that. And when they announced the cast, I remember Dan, he was the one who posted it, and he tagged me, and I'm just like, yep, there is no way I'm going to watch this movie. And I was already crucifying it from day one. Not because it was women in the movie. It was the fact that it was this one actress who I just am not interested in seeing because I don't think she's as funny as people say, and she's pretty much annoying in the movie she does. And more power to the people who like her. So, and another thing that kind of turned me off also for this movie is because of Dan Aykroyd. Because as you said it yourself, they've been talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking about, oh yeah, there's going to be a Ghostbusters 3. We're going to make a Ghostbusters 3. It's in pre-production. We're waiting for the script, this and that. And it never happened. And can you imagine them saying they're going to make it, they're going to make it, they're going to make it, they're going to make it. They're not going to make it. And then they announce, we're rebooting it. It's going to be with an all-female cast. I'm like, yeah, there goes my interest. Not because it's with an all-female cast, it's because they've been talking it up so much that it got to the point where it's just like, well, that was a waste of... How many years was he talking about a Ghostbusters 3?
20 plus years?
Yeah, like 20 plus years. And that can really, turn off a lot of people, especially people who even watched it back in the day. Now, granted, I wasn't born in 1984, nor in the 80s, nor in the late 70s. I was born in 1991. And I ended up watching the first Ghostbusters movie because there was a VHS rack in my house. And right next to RoboCop was Ghostbusters. And I was curious about it, and I watched it, and I thought it was a pretty fun experience. But I'm not going to call myself a Ghostbusters fan, because I'm not that really into Ghostbusters. I never watched the cartoon, and all I know is the theme song, which, to this day, I can sing it, word for word, and hum it tune for tune, because it's that catchy. And there's also Slimer. We all love Slimer. We're never going to forget Slimer.
Never.
And you have the logo. One of the most genius brandings out there. More as recognizable as Coca-Cola. So yeah, all that being said, I went in this with an open mind. Barely any expectations. And I sat there for 2 hours not reacting. And what am I supposed to do with that? I don't hate it because there's nothing for me to hate. Because it didn't get a reaction out of me.
Yeah, and, there are definitely some parts for me. I mean, let me think. So there's a few moments in the film where I really just kind of went, really? You're going to go with that direction? And then there were other moments where they really toyed well with the fan base, I think. But not in a bad way. It's really kind of watching this was a little bit of a tug of war for me. I thought I enjoyed the broader scope as far as the visual effects are concerned and how they went about making the ghosts. And because it was a new team, a new way of looking at the concept of ghost busting, I thought it worked pretty well, and even in some of the ghosts even kind of reminded me of the cartoon show in some ways, because there are some moments where the ghosts look pretty realistic to a human spirit form, while others are really kind of cartoonish. And so one of the things, there was a couple of things about this film that just really dinged it for me. And one of them was the antagonist of this film not necessarily what he was doing to cause a problem by summoning spirits and opening up ley lines across New York City to start this chain reaction. It was his motivation for doing so. In this day and age, we're really going to go with the idea of, oh, I've been bullied my whole life and been treated like dirt. I'm going to go on a murderous rampage. You know? It's a little insensitive concerning the times in that regard. And it's also a trope that's been well overused. Do we really need to go that direction? Do we need to go use a plot device that's so outdated and backwards? But
the irony.
Kind of, yeah, it's like, but that's what they decided to roll with, and what can we really do except watch the Ghostbusters try and solve the problem that he's creating?
Yeah.
And then there were just some other things that they kind of threw in there that I don't understand why. Like, Slimer has a girlfriend now that looks exactly like him. Well, the only difference is that she has a bow tie on her head.
I myself will admit that was one of the moments that I actually laughed at. That Slimer has a girlfriend.
I mean, I kind of laughed at it, but I was like, wow, he found someone who looks just like him.
Yeah, I liked it because it was basically like their version of a Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. That's why I liked it. And in a movie where I wasn't laughing or reacting, for that to get to me, it says a lot.
And then there were also some parts that I felt like the chemistry wasn't really quite there for all of the characters. Probably my favorite character of this new team of four is Holtzmann, by far. She was the one who had the subtle eccentricities that I felt that the original cast had, that the others lacked. Everyone else was very kind of loud, and I didn't believe that Melissa McCarthy was a scientist. Like, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel that coming from her, or Kristen Wiig for that matter. And so, I mean, the chemistry was lacking, but it wasn't completely devoid. And I felt that things kind of got a little stronger near the end there. Especially when, I don't know, I thought that part where, one thing that this film did do, that I thought was really cool, is that we got a glimpse of the ghost world. A very brief glimpse. When Erin jumps through the portal to, I forgot her name.
Abby.
She jumps through the portal to save Abby, right? And I thought that scene was really cool, and I thought that it brought them closer together as characters. And you know, in my heart, I was cheering at their success when they were finished with everything. Now, the things that I took away from it that I thought were really cool was I kind of enjoyed. It got a little gimmicky for the new inventions that they have and that they're showing, but I have to admit I was pretty stoked when Holtzmann pulled out those dualies and started proton pistoling ghosts. I thought that was pretty cool. I was having fun at that point in their big battle near the end of the film. And then I'm going to touch upon the ever iconic firehouse. Now, I'll be straight up with you. If money was not an option for me, I would buy that firehouse. I would make it my home. Like, of all filmdom, of all movies, everywhere, of any locations you can think of, where do I want to live? It's not Middle-earth. It's not the Millennium Falcon. It's the Ghostbusters firehouse. I just love that thing. I remember, even as a kid, I had the firehouse toy, and it was a blast. And even Lego has now come out with a $350 Lego Ghostbusters firehouse, and the only reason why I know all that information is because I've been eyeing it for a long time, and I'm really tempted to get it, but do I want to drop that kind of money right now? You know? But yeah, so I really love this firehouse. partially because when I was a kid, I thought, I want to be a fireman. Well, now you've got people who chase down and hunt after ghosts living in a firehouse. So it's like putting two of my childhood loves together in the same location. Now, when they were together as a team, and they were going out there looking for a new place, they show the firehouse. At this point, I'm going, oh no. Because this is such an iconic location for me. I didn't know how I felt about having a new team coming in and making it their home, because it kind of felt like they were coming into my home, if that makes sense. And are they worthy of the mantle to be able to do their experiments and live there and answer the call in that building? So imagine the sigh of relief I had when the real estate agent said that it's going to be $21,000 a month for rent.
Burn in hell.
And then, burn in hell was the reaction that Erin said to her. And in my mind, I was thinking, go to hell, when they were in there looking at the place and being all excited and hugging the columns and everything. I was thinking, go to hell. Don't be in that firehouse. And then they're like, okay, so what can we do for the cheaper end of the real estate? Where else can we go? And they set up shop in an old Chinese restaurant, like on the second floor. And at that point, I'm like, whew. I can deal with this. I can deal with this just fine. And you know what? I thought that it was... Because I figured this is a brand new Ghostbusters. Let's make it brand new. Like, do we need to... Can we make it different, you know? And I was like, okay, this is good. We can go for it from right here. Now, as the film progressed for me, I mean, again, it was kind of hard for me to get attached to the whole team. And it really wasn't until near the end that I thought, okay, they've kind of earned their chops here. So when they did that part at the end, when the assistant mayor comes up to them and says, yeah, just in case something else happens, we want to make sure we're ready for it, so we're willing to fund your research and everything, like whatever you need. You just say it, the word, whatever you need. And Erin's like, anything? And poof, the team is in the firehouse. Like, shop is all set up. Their secretary's got their desk answering phone calls, the whole shebang. And I was kind of thrown back to it a little bit, and then I was like, you know, I'm okay with it now. I'm going to let go. I think that they, not only did they satisfy me enough to say, okay, I don't mind that they're living here anymore, but they also piqued my interest, and I'll be honest, I would be curious to see how this would continue on as another franchise. Considering the box office, however, it might be unlikely that that's going to happen.
I don't care. And I'm not saying that as a jab. I just don't care.
Right.
Not like, and this is not to insult people who like Ghostbusters. I just don't care. I'm not that invested in this universe as I am with, say, Jurassic Park. Or, you know, the DC movies or stuff like that. I just don't care. And it's partially because of the whole back and forth with Dan Aykroyd and stuff like that. And partially because of, you know, just my overall experience watching the movie. Now, like I said before, if people liked it, more power to them. Because it's great when people like something. It's justified why people would like it. I can understand why people would like it. And I'm sure people who liked it can also understand why people won't like it. The whole thing with the internet rage and the misogyny, the sexism and all that stuff, it's uncalled for, to be honest. Like, sure, I don't like Melissa McCarthy in the movie. I'm not interested in Paul Feig, but it doesn't deserve the level of vitriol it was getting.
Absolutely not.
On top of the fact that Leslie Jones was being attacked on a racial level on Twitter just last week. Like, if you didn't like the movie, then don't like the movie. But Jesus Christ. Now, granted, as I stated earlier, how I was and felt watching this movie, because of that, I was able to notice, the issues I have with the movie and their creative decisions. Because the magic of filmmaking is supposed to distract you from some of the movie's faults. And boy, did I see so many faults because there wasn't any magic to distract me at all. Number 1, Screenwriting 101. You mentioned the movie's villain. I completely agree with your assessment. Frickin' really? A guy who was bullied and he's going to take his anger against the world? Go to therapy, number 1. Number 2, I'm supposed to believe that this guy was able to build all of his toys to bring out the ghosts based on a thesis book that were written by women who weren't even... They were just theorizing. How old would they have been when they wrote that book? Like in their late teens, early 20s?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm supposed to buy that a book that came out 20 years ago in that universe is the... Because, I assume that they would take time to work out theories and theses and stuff like that. But I'm supposed to buy by this script's logic that this guy was able to find a book that old and just run with it. Come on. I know in a movie called Ghostbusters, I'm supposed to suspend my suspension of disbelief. But Jesus Christ, people, the idea that the guy was a person who was bullied in the past wasn't helping either. The whole thing with Chris Hemsworth as being the dumb as hell, dumb as bricks, dumb as all can be male secretary. I'll give the movie credit because they're going with a trope that's been used in the past with women, and they're kind of turning it on its head. But Jesus Christ. They're stupid. There's Joey Tribbiani stupid. There's Phoebe Buffay stupid. And then there's Kevin stupid. I'll admit, the dance number in the credits was fun, just because it seems that Chris Hemsworth was having fun doing it. But throughout the movie itself, I'm just like, yeah, this isn't working with me at all. No. McKinnon as, what was her character's name? Holtzmann. I didn't like her. I thought she was just a cartoon through and through. Which would work in a series like The Real Ghostbusters and Extreme Ghostbusters. Her character would work perfectly there. To me, she did not work in this movie. She was way too quirky. It felt like she was bringing her SNL shtick to the movie. There was even a part where, when Melissa McCarthy's character is possessed?
Yeah.
And she's walking all the way to the bathroom to get her to come out. It felt like she was doing her Justin Bieber shtick with the way she was walking, the way that she was wearing like a full-on pantsuit and putting her hands in her pockets and walking with a little like shtick. I'm just like, fucking really? Be a character, not a caricature. Which, her thing with all of a sudden building these weapons out of nowhere, like the grenades. One scene, she's like, I'm going to take this pipe and I'm going to make a shotgun, and even if it blows up, we can still use it to cause damage. All of a sudden, there's a shotgun in the next scene. I'm like, when did she build it? Where did they pull it out? Like, I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but given the state of emotion I was in, I'm starting to notice a lot of things in this movie that are not working at all. It just didn't work for me. And it just didn't work. There's really nothing more I should say. There's really nothing more I need to harp on. The two moments that worked with me with Leslie Jones' character, however, was when she walks into the room with the mannequins and her response was, Nope, that's a whole nightmare right in there. I'm walking out of here. I laughed at that because nothing good ever happens in a room full of mannequins with ghosts involved. And the other part that I liked with Leslie Jones was when she's in the subway and she's, like, hey, if you want to pee, we got a perfectly good restroom up in the Starbucks area. I'm like, okay, that got a chuckle out of me. And then the whole thing with Slimer, yeah, that was funny as well. The Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head version of Slimer and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Not a good experience, or lack thereof of any experience. Which
I do, and it was pretty unfortunate. I think that the chemistry was just very lacking. What this did not have that the original had was that all four of the original team were instantaneously likable. The moment you were introduced to them, they were unique. They popped out at you. You wanted to know more about them. Even Egon, who is just really in his own little world and just really stiff all the time, he was a hilarious character. And
because there was charm to it.
There was huge. That's the thing about Ghostbusters, is that you're mixing the paranormal with science, with comedy, and ridiculously well put together chemistry and charm.
Yeah.
Those are the things that make the original a classic to this day. And for a film that was made in the mid 80s, you watch it today and I don't feel like it was an 80s movie.
Yeah.
It's very much timeless for me.
And when you really think about it, the real major difference between this one and the original, in the original, at least before Ernie Hudson's character was introduced, Egon, not Venkman, and who else? What were the characters' names, the original scientists?
Egon Spengler, Ray Stantz.
Yeah. So...
Peter Venkman.
Yeah, so they were all kooky and crazy in their own way. They were weird because they were into the paranormal and stuff like that. But they were doing it in a world where everybody was behaving normal. Everyone around them was the straight man, and they were the kooky guys. And that worked. Because they're existing in a world that abides by normalcy. And they themselves are the weird people.
I think I know what you're getting at, because there were characters in this film, in the new Ghostbusters, who were, the side characters or people that the Ghostbusters are talking to, who were also kind of odd, eccentric, and zany in their own way. Like that college dean that they talked to,
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I'm trying.
That was over the top.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
And it stole, whatever charm that this new team would have had was stolen by the supporting cast.
Like I was saying, in the original, the main characters are the weird people. Everyone around them, they're the straight man. In this one, Melissa McCarthy is a straight man for some reason, and everyone around them is either an idiot or they have a quirk for some reason. So, yeah. I guess the last thing that we can talk about are the obligatory cameos of the original movie. Because for every reboot, for every remake, there is always a callback to the original. And it's always there. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And in here, by God, it does not work. Number one, Bill Murray's character is unlikable from the get-go. And at some point I thought he was going to be the villain. Because his character is supposed to be the infamous debunker of all paranormal activity. And
I would have loved for him to be... Because when he died, I would have loved for him to be like a villainous ghost.
Yeah, it felt like that was what they were setting up to.
Yeah.
Number two, Dan Aykroyd's character was just shoehorned in there. Granted, he was an executive producer, and he's been talking up this movie from day one, so, okay. And then Ernie Hudson's character is pretty much Leslie Jones's uncle for her character, which, okay, that makes sense, but, last minute. Literally last minute. And Sigourney Weaver, because you can't get Harold Ramis back, she comes back and they pretty much prop her up in the Harold Ramis role, which I thought was just forced and unnecessary either. Which brings me to this point. Why bother rebooting it at all? Why not just set it in the same universe, but it takes place in a different part of the world? You could have had these characters like not being fully aware or kind of aware of what happened in the timeline of the original, and they themselves come across paranormal activity and they're scientists and they want to explore it, and they come across the original cast and say it's like, hey, you should have called us. Well, who are you? Well, we're the Ghostbusters. And then they turn up being the Ghostbusters at the end of the day, working for, as this movie opens in the opening crawl, the Ghost Corps. I'm just throwing it out there. Mm-hmm. That could have been a way to go.
Personally, the original Ghostbusters, perhaps they kind of felt like it's better to redo it than to try and continue it, because there's a legacy there that you're trying to do there. Because let's be honest here, for as small of a franchise as it is, just being 3 movies now, and I'll go on record saying that I don't know what the circumstances was concerning the development of Ghostbusters 3. I know that the reception of Ghostbusters 2 was not very well, and I think it was not undeserved. I don't think that was deserved, because I didn't think the second one was a bad film. Of course, I might be a little biased because I was a kid when I saw that one too, and I see the faults of it now and what could have been done differently, but it was still a good movie, and it could have easily have had a third one to go along with it. And I feel that a third installment to Ghostbusters with the original cast was probably one of the biggest missed opportunities in Hollywood history.
Yeah, it's like Jurassic World. They didn't just outright write out Jurassic Park out of continuity. They continued it. Star Wars Episode 7. Yes, it's called Episode 7. They don't have the number 7 in the title, but it's still the continuation with a new cast. It is the passing of the torch rather than just recreating.
I could easily buy the fact that the original team has gotten older, and maybe Egon died. A tribute to the actor who played him, and they just sell the business to a new team. I'd be completely okay with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, this is one of those reasons why I would love to have a time machine so I can go and rewrite the misgivings of the past.
Exactly. They should just hire me to come up with story ideas. I'll do it for them.
Yeah. It's just sad looking at the box office performance, because on the one hand, it does not deserve the backlash that it got, and it should be performing better. But the problem is that it's very divided. You have people who think it's straight up mediocre and unnecessary, and you have people like yourself who didn't think it was that bad and it was a surprise, but it's still not enough.
Yep.
And then you have, like I said in the opening, you have the Sony logo, you have the Columbia Pictures logo, and then you have their Ghost Corp logo, which they're supposed to throw in there, signifying that, we're rebooting this franchise from the ground up and we're going to make more movies. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Even after they themselves announced that, we're going to totally move forward with a sequel. Well, holy shit, man. You guys are really... Whew.
Good luck.
Good luck. No, yeah, seriously, good luck. I mean, they say they're They're gonna make a cartoon series. They still have the comic book series at IDW Publishing. I'm like, good freaking luck, especially to Sony, because they have been bleeding money since 2012.
Something's got to give.
Oh my god.
Something's got to give.
Something better.
So, my overall enjoyment for this, again, I'm not exactly enthralled, but I didn't think it was a complete disappointment. So on a 5 scale, I would comfortably give it a 3 out of 5.
I can't rate it. I mean, I can rate it, but what's the point? You already know how I feel about it.
Well, thanks for taking a chance on me.
Oh no, yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'll probably put this in my. It probably won't be in the Cinematic Universe 2016 playlist on YouTube. I'll just put it in the special event playlist and see how that goes. Like I said, and I'll reiterate it again. If you want to go see it yourself and make your own opinion, that's perfectly fine. Temper your expectations a bit, that's all I'll say. If you like Paul Feig and the Melissa McCarthy formula, you're going to love this movie because that's exactly what you're getting into. If you're not interested in it, then you're not interested in it. But there's no reason to, be part of the vitriol. And I'm not gonna, and I really don't care if somebody comes out and say, "Well, you didn't like it. That means you're a sexist and misogynist." And whatnot. Nah, fuck that shit. You either like it or you don't.
Enough with the political correctness already. Just stop it.
Yeah, what is it with the past 3 years being nothing but political correctness?
Oh, it's a. Ugh.
You know what I would have loved to have seen? I would have loved to have seen Max Landis' version of the Ghostbusters.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that.
It was on kindoffunny.com on YouTube. He was a guest on their show, and he pretty much pitched an idea of a Ghostbusters movie that had both men and women in the team, and one of the actors was Sarah Silverman in his pitch for it. And I'm like, you know what? Even myself, who I am not that big of a fan of Sarah Silverman, I'm like, I would jump in on that because that sounds really cool. But this is the movie we got, and Zool, motherfucker, Zool. Yeah, like I said, good luck if you can make it there, because I don't think the movie's gonna get a big budget for the second movie. Because
if there is one.
If there is one.
I'm doubtful at this point, but I've been proven wrong in the past, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That's my review for the Ghostbusters 2016 version. David, thank you for tolerating my lack of enthusiasm.
No problem.
You all know where to find me. Twitter, Movie Pilot, Creators Co. You know what to do. And you also know where to find David if you've been listening to our reviews. Bye-bye, guys.